Welcome everybody to this week's magnificent NIM community call. This is the 10th day of the 10th month, so we're here to give you a 10 out of 10 presentation together with a few excellent people. Now, as you know from the title, the rubber hits the road. Hopefully you don't only know that from the title, but also from our communications recently. Of course, this year, NIM is gearing up for a huge release, which is the release of NymVPN. We wanted to talk about that today. More specifically, we're coming right out of our yearly team meeting in Malta, which is a very productive one, and I can say I think Harry and the rest of the presenters will agree that this was probably the most important meeting we had so far in the history of the project, and we have a really concrete plan now on how the upcoming few months will go down. And lately, a lot of you have been asking some great questions on our Telegram channels and also on other social media. So we thought we don't just answer those questions, but we bring the whole picture to all of you guys and tell you the entire plan from this point all the way to the launch of NymVPN, down to the nitty-gritty details. So that's what I wanted to bring our guests for today. And with all of that said, let's actually introduce those guests, starting with the lady and also the person who's never been on a NIM community call before. How is it going, Rita?
It's going great. Really happy to be here.
Excellent to have you. Marc, hopefully everybody remembers Marc. He's already been on one of the community calls before. How is it going, sir?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Sudo. And for those of you who do not know me, I'm the head of product at NIM. I've been here for about a year now, and then I joined. It's probably my third community call, I think, so far.
Yes, and hopefully you'll be joining many more. And then lastly, the man who probably needs no introduction to any of you, or if he does, I don't know where you've been living so far, Harry Halpin, the CEO of NIM. How's it going, Harry?
It's going great. I'm really happy to see everyone get together in Malta and really do a final big push around NymVPN. So I'll be presenting not just NymVPN, but how it fits within the larger plan effectively.
Excellent. It's really lovely to have you on. Harry will start presenting in a second, but before that, let's go through the usual housekeeping items. Big thanks for joining, everyone. Once again, it's lovely to have you on. And also big thanks for the audience for listening to us. If you have any questions, remember that we're keeping a close eye on the chat here. So leave your questions in the YouTube or Twitch live chat. We're going to be answering them at the end, or if the question is very relevant to what we're talking about at the time, then we may actually just answer it right away. If you want to preserve your anonymity, then you can also leave your questions on the general chat of the NIM Matrix server. We're also keeping an eye there, so if you leave your questions there, you don't need to log in with your YouTube account, if you even have one. With all of that said, Harry will give us a presentation about the big picture. So we thought that would be the best way to start off this presentation. Harry, take it away.
Yeah, so like I said, let me just say hello to everyone who's in Matrix. I personally don't use YouTube, so or at least don't have an account. So I'm going to basically present the sort of big plan and how NymVPN fits into it. So first I want to motivate a bit what's going on. So people said, well, look, are you moving from mixnet to VPN? No way. What a VPN is a VPN exists to give people network privacy. They're called a VPN, stands for virtual private network. Now, the problem we have today with all existing VPNs is that they're effectively pretty scammy. So most VPNs, all centralized VPNs, simply take your data, put it in someone else's computer, and ship it out again. And they're often ran by unpleasant and possibly even dangerous data brokers and data analytics providers that literally sell your data. And then what we noticed is that when we originally launched the Mixnet about 2 years ago, we had this real hope that everyone was going to effectively use the Mixnet and build apps on top of it. But unfortunately, what happened is that people did not do that. We had a few people build apps, and we're very thankful for those people, but they didn't really build any apps that went viral. We had very few good applications to the ecosystem fund. And I think the real reason is just there's not that many developers in Web3. And the intersection of developers in Web3 and people interested in privacy, again, it's a smaller and smaller group of people. However, there are millions of people that use and rely on VPNs for free and uncensored and ideally private internet access. And these don't have to be developers. These can be ordinary people. I use a VPN every day. I was using one before NIM. Now I'm using NymVPN. I think, using Mulvad and of course Tor. Now I just use NymVPN. It's fine. Works really quite well. And then what we said is, well, look, if we can take the mixnet and package it, this decentralized mixnet with an interface that's easy to use as a VPN, that can really go viral. That can get a lot of growth. And that's something that we're completely missing right now. So the goal, let me just go back up a bit. So just to kind of give people the big picture here, let me see if I can make this a bit bigger, a little bit smaller. Let me see if I can get it more on the screen. Okay, that's better. So, again, NIM, as a company, we started in 2019, launched a test net. We tokenized it in 2020, did a mainnet launch in 2021, and a token launch in 2022. And 2023, we kept hoping people were going to build on it. We didn't have enough people build on it. We did launch an SDK. We did do some integrations, but we kind of pivoted at the last TIM meeting, 2023. We said, look, we're going to build a NymVPN. And then new people like Marc Debizet came on board to lead building, apps which could basically enable NIM to work on easily for end users. And the goal of 2024 is still the same. It's to launch the NymVPN, and that's the plan. We're going to launch it. You can already download the beta. If you aren't using it, you should download it. Some people tried, they couldn't get the credentials. That's been fixed. As soon as you download the app and you type in your email, you instantly get a credential on nymvpn.com. So really, what we really need now is to really get as many users as possible to slam the network to really drive that VPN growth. If we don't get that, particularly even testing, it's going to be hard to make sure our thing really works. And again, the VPN offers both a decentralized VPN, which is pretty fast, and it's works as fast as most VPNs, and it's safer because it gives you 2 hops. And then we are still giving you the mixnet. That's the anonymous mode. So once the question is, how does NymVPN fit in a larger plan? So in 2025, if we can launch a thing in 2024 and we get a few thousand people using it, I'll be pretty happy. Again, we had 40,000 people on the waiting list. We probably had 4,000 or 5,000 people try it, but the vast majority of them didn't keep using it because at the time the 2-hop WireGuard mode wasn't working very well, and so it was just too slow to use, and it was too unstable. So we're going to fix all those leaks, make it stable. Rita and Marc are going to go deep into the details there. And you've seen, some of you probably have seen the Kanban board that has that. But I want to give the larger strategic roadmap. So the large strategic roadmap is in 2025, NIM has to go viral. The goal is to get everyone to use NymVPN. We want thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or millions of users. Once we start getting those users in, we can understand how people use the mixnet, how many people use anonymous mode versus fast mode. We can totally parameterize the mixnet, makes the mixnet faster, make it more secure, and make it more anonymous. So we have these kind of like AI algorithms that effectively can add noise to the mixnet to make it more anonymous, but we don't know exactly how to parameterize those because we don't have that many real users yet. Once you get above 1,000 real users, that sort of technology can start kicking in and make the whole thing much more secure, and we can even make it eventually much more fast. The other question is, how can we get, the VPN market's pretty crowded. A lot of you probably already have one. Maybe use Nord, Express. If you're in China, you might use, what's it called? Shadow Rocket. How is it that we can get people to use NIM as opposed to other VPNs? And we have 2 plans. One is to completely decentralize more and more. So right now you have a wallet and you have NymVPN. And That's great. But in operators who run nodes, like many of you use the wallet, and people that want to use the software use an NymVPN client on their phone, for example. However, wouldn't it be nice, even for ordinary users, if you could download the NymVPN client, then you can open up your IP address so other people can use your IP address. This is already done to some extent, although fairly shakily, I would say, by other decentralized VPNs like Orchid. And this leads to more and more gateways. And so what we can imagine is we're going to, we have like about 30 gateways right now. We're going to try to push that up to 50 or even or more before NymVPN launch, because we want to be on par with other VPNs. But if you imagine we have, let's say, 20,000 users, half of them turn on gateway usage, you get 10,000 gateways. That would be huge. That would be much harder to censor and much easier to do things like streaming with. And then the other thing is, many of you are in countries which are censored. I don't know how many are in countries which are censored right now, but I've been talking in Telegram to folks in Russia and China and UAE and many other countries, and they're actively already censored, and we think that censorship is going to spread. So we've hired some censorship resistant experts. We're going to be reaching out privately to do that data collection, and we're pretty certain we can get censorship resistance working next year. And then once that works, we still have the goodwill of Signal. We're in touch with Meredith and their CTO. Brave, we're working with them on data analytics right now. And even weirdly enough, recently some AI companies have reached out and say, hey, if you have this decentralized VPN, could we use this to basically help scrape data for our AI? And we said, okay, yeah, if you pay the users, that's fine. So you can imagine that more and more people will use the VPN. Some subset of those will also run nodes, run gateways, and that as more and more people jump on, their payments hopefully go up. And then lastly, we do need to decentralize the validators. That is something that we wanted to do this year. We didn't do because it's a huge amount of technical work, may even lead to a fork in the chain, but we're willing to do that. But we want to make sure that we really get the product working, because our goal is not to give validators lots of money. That's not our goal. Our goal is not to run a staking product. Our goal is to deliver privacy enhanced, anonymous, and censorship resistant internet to the entire world. So just to go into a little bit of detail. So again, decentralization via residential IPs for streaming. That's a big chunk of work. We don't expect that work to start this year. We expect that work to start sometime next year, once and only after the NymVPN client is stable and works really well. That will require merging the wallet and the gateway code. It's complicated, but we do think that will enable lots of people to get even more excited. So again, we're not going to try to launch. We want to get a few thousand users this year, but we want to aim for hundreds of thousands of users. We have some tactics to do so. The last thing is, if you've been in the Telegram channel, and you see I'm pretty active there, censorship resistance is a pretty big deal. So censorship resistance basically means, how can I use NymVPN in places like China and Russia? How can we discover the gateway safely? How can we make sure WireGuard's not blocked, the Sphinx pockets aren't blocked? Actually, NymVPN seems to work reasonably well in China, and WireGuard is blocked in Russia, but we have people actively working on them. We're looking at authentication, proxy, amnesia, and other protocols here. And again, that's pretty easy for us to do, because we just have to add some new protocol support on the first gateway, so that when you log into a gateway, we cycle through protocols until one of them works. So it's not actually a huge architecture change. What it really requires is us understanding what's being censored, and particularly the community working with us to make sure we get that data so we can fix the code to make it censorship resistant. And then the last thing I want to mention, so I want to say this is our previous roadmap. So a lot of people are complaining, oh, blah, blah, blah. Nym is not exactly on track. Well, look, we're a big, huge project, and we did do a pivot. We pivoted away from being a pure blockchain project into trying to onboard millions of people using a VPN product. And that's a big change. So the roadmap has changed to take that into account. That being said, again, a mixnet only makes you anonymous by virtue of other people using the mixnet. So if I set up a mixnet for just me and my friends, let's say me and my friends at KS Computer Club, we have a mixnet among like all 50 of us or 500 of us, that's pretty useless compared to mixnet, which has a diverse and large user base spread across many countries. You'll be much more anonymous. if you use a mixnet that's operated by one person or one group and mostly one country, you're going to reveal who you are. If you have people from all across the world, some people streaming video, some people doing, I don't know, whistleblowing, so forth and so on, the people that are high risk, like human rights defenders and whistleblowers, are protected by the people doing streaming, and everyone becomes more anonymous together, more private together. I think that's a big deal. So I do want to kind of revisit our roadmap. You can see that, when we did launch our testnet and grew up, and, all of our investors are still behind us. All of our supporters are still behind us from the early days. We've had some smaller ones jump off, but, A16, Polychain, Binance, their wallets are public, and, they haven't sold a single token. So we still have the support of all of these large groups, and they're all pushing us to get, better liquidity, to get the token in a healthier shape, and to get the product out. And the key is, I just want to mention this because some people have asked me, why is the token not doing so well? Well, we can tell you why, because it needs more liquidity. And right now what's happening is a lot of, to be honest, node operators are just constantly selling tokens. And so that produces constant downward sell pressure. But we're not a scam company. We're not going to, we won't, we don't buy our own tokens. When NymVPN launches, people will buy tokens. That will produce buy pressure, and then that will start matching the sell pressure. Buy pressure is larger. We have more nodes. Buy pressure is too small. We start shrinking the mixnet very rapidly. And so we reach harmony, and that we think will basically make the NYM token much more interesting for everyone, because it will actually function as part of a mutually beneficial cycle between the users of NymVPN and the node operators. So, I'm not going to repeat everything I said earlier. We launched in 2022. We actually did accomplish a lot of our goals in 2023. We have an SDK. We have Nym Connect. Still works. You can still use the integrate. But 2024, again, the big push has been NymVPN. A year ago, it was just some sketches by Marc Debizet on a board. Now it's an app you can download and use, and we're going to enable payments by end of year. Rita and Marc are going to go deep into that. And then once we get those initial paying users, we can parameterize and speed the mixnet up, which I think everyone would appreciate if anonymous mode was faster. And we have a bunch of cool stuff we haven't even released yet that we already have the Rust libraries for. We just haven't integrated in because we want to focus on NymVPN, like post-quantum cryptography, which makes, no, except for maybe one or two versions of Molvad, no one has post-quantum crypto, neither Tor nor any of the other decentralized VPNs. We'd be the first to actually have real post-quantum protection. And then, as I said, next year, double down on censorship resistance, double down on decentralization, including making it easy for ordinary people to open nodes and gateways. We probably want professionals at least around the large nodes, but it's good to have a lot of people try. Still on good terms with Signal and Brave. They're just waiting for us to get the damn thing to work better. And then, Chelsea, folks at Google, everyone's working on secure hardware and optimized hardware, now getting poked by AI companies. And we can, again, defend against AI surveillance, against nation-state level surveillance, which no one can do. So there's a lot of demand also for enterprise versions of NYM. And we think we can get if we get the basic thing out, the basic NymVPN out, and start scaling that up, that will really stop the downward sell pressure, put a cycle together, a mutually beneficial cycle between the users and the operators and the token. And that's what's going to lead to viral growth. And it's most other projects, I don't think, have a good plan here. I think everyone, we've ran this plan by all the VCs. I ran it by, a lot of the, I would say, Asian and backers and supporters earlier this morning. People think it's a really good plan. People know there's a huge market in Asia. There's a large market in Russia. There's a huge market in the US and Europe and in South America as well. Everyone's going to need VPNs. Even if the whole world enters World War III tomorrow, because who knows what happens with Trump or Russia or middle war in the Middle East, the fact of the matter is everyone's going to want a VPN. Censorship is going to increase. Surveillance is going to increase. And our special techniques of building something which is a mixnet, which generates noise, which is easy to use, that's something that no one else has and no one else can replicate. So that's our plan. And we discussed this in detail at the Malta meeting. I'm happy to take questions if we have a few minutes. I apologize. I probably went a bit too long.
Excellent. No, you didn't go too long, Harry. This was really, really good as the big picture. I suggest let's take questions at the end together. How about that? And then we can move on to Marc and Rita for the nitty-gritty details.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Harry?
No, of course. And if people want to ask questions now, I'm sorry, I'm not in YouTube. I am hanging out in the Matrix chat. I can answer questions in Matrix, as I always do.
All right. We do have quite a few amazing questions. I do see those guys. Don't worry, they're gonna be addressed. But now that we have the big picture from Harry, it was a lovely presentation. Let's actually get into the nitty-gritty details of how things are going to go for the coming few months, because these are pivotal months in the history of the project. This is where the rubber hits the road. I can't stress that enough. So, Marc, I'm going to talk to you first. First of all, Harry mentioned that back a year ago on our previous team meeting, all we had were sketches on a board. How do you feel about the progress that we've made over the past year?
Yeah, thank you, Sudo. Thank you, Harry, for the presentation and for the trust in this. As you said, Sudo, like a year ago, we all met in the team offsite, and what we had were like mostly sketches on the board. So we were working with the UX designer, and all looked like actually it was a purple wireframe. It was just a bunch of ideas put on paper. And a year later, I think we have working apps on 5 platforms. We have a website. We have an amazing customer support team helping all of you guys. And yeah, it's pretty exciting to see things taking shape. So can't wait to present you the roadmap for the coming month and then talk about the plans for the end of year with Rita.
Excellent. Now, after the big picture, I want to really get into those nitty-gritty details. So Harry explained by and large what is getting released and what it means for the world and the project. But I want to ask you what is exactly getting released this year. So what will NymVPN look like out the gate?
Sure. So maybe, yeah, before we go, I don't know if you're sharing my screen, but before we go into the nitty-gritty details together with Rita, maybe I'll do like kind of the in-between, which is like the NymVPN roadmap for the coming month and next year.
Should I bring your screen on?
Share the screen, yeah, please. So yeah, just a quick reminder for everyone that when you go on the nymvpn.com website and you will go all the way to the bottom, we do have a link here in the resources called NymVPN Public Roadmap, for those of you who haven't seen it. And this will take you to currently this Trello board, which will soon move to something open source and self-hosted. Don't worry about that, which presents you basically what's going on with NymVPN. So you get to see like what we got to deliver over the past year. So there's a very long list of things here. You get to see the 2 columns about what are going to be the main releases we're going to have in November 12th and then December 12th, which I'm going to go in detail about together with Rita. And then you'll have the chance also to see like what is prioritized for and then the Q1 and then what's more in the backlog. So based on all the support we get from you in Discord and Telegram via customer support and many other channels. So currently this is more of a read-only document because it requires people to get Trello access, which I guess nobody really has, to upvote and comment. But we're looking to make this much more engaging and community-driven. So as mentioned, we're going to switch that to a self-hosted and open source tool and hope everyone can contribute and then upvote on the tasks. So that being said, we're going to now focus on what's going to happen by end of year. And the main goal for that is going to be to launch the paid version of NymVPN. So for that to happen, we have quite a few things lined up. So I'm going to cover what exactly is going to happen, and then Rita is going to talk about the how and how do we set ourselves for success before the end of the year. So many of you may be current users of NymVPN, so you may know like the functionalities we have, the connectivity we offer, the great news about launching the WireGuard mode, and then the exit gateways we offer in 30 countries. But before we can make the service a paid service, we feel like there's 3 requirements that we need to basically come up with, either for the users or for ourselves. So the first one is that, and the most important one, is to have a value proposition that the users are ready to pay for. So yeah, as the saying go in product, like you need to launch with a product. If you don't launch with a product that's embarrassing to the company, then you've launched too late. But I think we cannot be like too embarrassing. So we want basically to offer something that's at the very least comparable to the privacy enhancing products you have out there, like the other VPNs or Tor. So we need something that's fast. So that's why there was so much focus on launching like this WireGuard enabled fast mode over the past few months. We want something that's reliable, We're working towards that, something that's secure. So we had an audit by the firm Cure53, which is very reputable and has been doing audits with many privacy companies in the past couple of years. And finally, a non-leaking connectivity. So we do get lots of feedback about DNS, IPv6, and other leaks happening. And this is something we definitely want to fix, because as a company operating the privacy and security space, these are just like no-goes for a paid product. The second thing we need to have is the ability to gatekeep the network. So currently we're in a free beta, meaning the network's a bit free for all. As users, you can enjoy like unlimited, almost unlimited like downloads on the Mixnet and WireGuard. But that's just short-lived. So it's for you guys to test the network and for us to see like how things react, how much load we can handle. But of course, it means that the company has to pay for that from its pocket. So what we want to do is basically gatekeep the access to the network to allow to basically be in position to control like who's going to use it, and then be in a position to basically make a paid version. And so for that, like one of the key requirements is to launch basically the ZK NIMs based sign up and login. So ZK NIM stands for Zero Knowledge NIMs, and this is a technology that one of the like core technology that NIM came up with. That will basically solve one of the big pain points that we have in VPNs. So as a reminder, with VPNs, when you pay for a standard VPN, the VPN provider has access to your payment data, potentially to your email, and based on that, they know your identity, and then they can connect basically your identity to your online activities, which can be a problem depending on the country where you live or what you do online. And so thanks to the ZK NIM, we're basically able to unlink the relationship you have between your personal information and then what you do online. So this is something super important, and we hope to launch that like very, very soon. So stay tuned. I mean, it's working internally, it's tested, but now we need to bring that in production. So it's the next challenge. And then lastly...
Sorry, Marc.
Yes.
Can I stop you here for a second? Because I think we need to spell it out a bit more. So when we're talking about payments, why are payments such a big deal around NIM, right? It's not just a matter of implementing Stripe, right? It's a bit more complicated than that. Can you please spend just a few more minutes on explaining like the technical background of implementing payments in such a way, which dissociates usage from payment information?
Yeah, sure. So actually, there's two things here. So one is like really this gatekeeping and the credential, and then the second part is the payment themselves. They're kind of linked, but not strictly. So the part I was talking about is really purely in terms of access. So it can be made in a free mode or paid mode. It doesn't matter. But it's really how do you give the users a credential that unlocks access with the gateways and with the NymVPN product as a whole, and the NymVPN service as a whole. But do that in the way that preserves their privacy and their security. So again, when you do that, so you're gonna the way it's gonna work is you're gonna go to the NymVPN website. You're gonna create an account, create a recovery phrase, and that will be basically used. You'll be able to use that to basically connect to the gateways, but this will be completely disconnected from any personal information that we may have about you, such as your payment details, or maybe like a throwaway email or something like that. And so lastly, like the third requirement we have is that once we can gatekeep the access to the network, then we want to turn on payments. So payments are great because they're good for the company because they help pay for the developer salaries, but also they're great for operators because it means they can also sustain the network, sustain their operations, and then offer a good quality of service by having like fast and powerful nodes. And so this is something we want to turn on definitely before the end of the year. And we want to do that with 3 types of payments. So debit card payments for fiat users. We're going to use Stripe in the beginning, just because it's fast and easy to integrate. And later on, we'll look for more like privacy-preserving solutions. And then for crypto-friendly people, we'll of course offer like native NIM support. And then thanks to our own like self-hosted payment gateway called BTC Pay Server, which is an open source payment gateway, we will offer also like Bitcoin, Monero, and then a few other cryptocurrencies. And so by doing that, it means like, every time somebody will buy a VPN subscription, like a NymVPN subscription, we will basically buy those tokens on the market. And so as Harry mentioned, we'll create like also buying pressure for the token. So that's also a good thing for everyone in the community. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, before passing the mic to Rita for talking a little bit, so that she can talk a little bit about the how, we spoke about the what and the why so far, but we also need to talk about the how. I want to ask you about the future, Marc, because Again, obviously, you got to draw the line somewhere when it comes to releasing a product, right? So you have to have an MVP. You sort of described what the MVP looks like, what is coming out later this year. Where is this going to take us next year? What are the additional features that NymVPN will receive? Harry already mentioned some of this, but I think it's worth going over them.
Yeah, so I can switch back to this view. And again, I encourage all of you to have a look at this. And hopefully, as mentioned, we will soon get the chance to have this a bit more like dynamic and community enabled, so where you can upvote and leave feedback and comments to this. But so what you have in scope for November, December, I guess, has been mostly covered. So it's focused on like the connectivity, the leaks, the ZK NIMs, and the paid version. Next to that, yeah, we will release the app finally on the main F8 repo. I mean, it's not a huge task, but it's very important for the visibility of the app. And lastly, we'll make some improvements to the website, so stay tuned for that. I'm not going to disclose too much here. And that's what's coming up for likely in the Q1. So kill switch and lockdown, this is something super important. I believe we're not going to be ready to have that by end of year, but definitely in January. This is a very, very important feature, which avoids any traffic from going out of your device when you're not connected to NymVPN. We do understand that connectivity and reliability is still a bit subpar compared to what you can find with other privacy-enhancing products. So this is definitely something we want to be working on. That's probably going to continue like over the course of Q1 and probably beyond that. It's just like a never-ending topic. Localization. So we do offer the Linux, Windows, and Android apps in already 10 plus languages. I believe we just added Arabic and Farsi to the mix. Due to some like technical constraints, like we do not offer that on Apple products and nor on the website, but this is coming soon. And then, yeah, some other like improvement that the community has been asking a lot for. We know that the gateway geolocation is not always the best, so something we want to work on. DNS customization, so people all have all preferences about different DNSs they may want to use for all kinds of reasons. So this is something we are considering as well. Adding more entry and exit location options. We currently have 30 entry and exit locations, so we want to bump that number to 50. It's more of a marketing stunt, but we do see like journalists and other people reviewing the privacy enhancing apps looking at these numbers. So that's also important if you want to play like big in the market. And then finally, as Harry mentioned, like censorship resistance is also something that's going to come up very soon, and we will work on the first implementation, we hope by end of Q1 next year. Harry mentioned also like residential IP. That's somewhere here, I believe. It should be here. Yeah, this one. I don't think we'll have that like in the very beginning because it raises also lots of operational questions, but definitely something that's on the roadmap for later in the year. We do also have like other very exciting pieces of work coming, like post-quantum cryptography, which will add even more security to NymVPN. So yeah, stay tuned. And again, have a look at the roadmap. And please feel free to share any comment or feedback to our typical channel, so Matrix, Discord, or even to the support.
Excellent. Thanks for that thorough answer. I'm going to take your screen off of view, but please keep it shared so that Rita can also have slides to talk about. Now, before we move on to Rita, I want to ask the community of all the listed upcoming features, what is the most exciting to you? So can you, Salazar, please share the link to the Trello board once again, where all of these features are listed. We talked about censorship resistance. We talked about residential IPs. We talked about the kill switch. A bunch of new features are coming next year, right, which are prioritized but are not going to be in the release product. What makes you the most excited? You can just leave a comment here, or you can also share with us on Telegram or Matrix. Super excited or interested in seeing your responses. And now moving on to you, Rita. And I think an introduction is due here because you're the only person who hasn't been on a NIM community call before. So please introduce yourself. What should the community know about you?
Sure. Thanks, Sudo. Well, I guess just in brief, I have over 15 years experience leading delivery for global brands, commercial digital products. And I'm here because, the leadership at NIM felt that it would be great to have someone who is really focused on getting out our first paid product launch and then helping us to set up best practices for product delivery in the future. I think we've seen some comments about delays and things like this. And I know that's been addressed previously. I know that everyone's been really patient about the fact that we're really moving from a research and development focused company to a product delivery company. And so I'm really here to help Marc as head of product and the leadership here to just put those delivery practices into place and tighten up the screws a little bit.
Excellent. It is really lovely to have you on. Basically, my job here today is to tease out some parts of the presentation that you gave us in Malta, which really, I've never seen software development, especially such a launch from a startup before in my life. And that presentation really tied it together to me, like how we're actually going to be doing this. So actually, I'm going to be doing that. Let me know when you want me to share the screen already. And
Yeah, you can put up that slide.
okay, so this slide. Now, again, we talked about the what and the why with Harry and Marc so far, but there's of course a whole aspect of how we're going to be pulling this off with the timeline that we have. So Rita is here to talk about that. I'm gonna just pass the mic to you and then ask some questions wherever something needs to be clarified. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really here, as I said, to focus on the how. And so we have 2 releases that are coming out before the end of the year. They're actually very close together. So one of them is November 12 and one of them is December 12. Now, November 12, we're really focused on, the WireGuard and the security fixes, as Marc referred to, and really kind of laying that foundation for when we come back in December and we're going to have payments available and all the ZK-NYM work in place. So you can imagine that when you have 2 releases like this that are really close together, what you have is the team actually doing development for both simultaneously. So what we have is something that, sort of a concept that might be familiar to many of you, which is the idea of a code freeze, right? So we have a code freeze date, which you see on that slide, of October 18. That's next week, which means the team just stops development at that point. They're not doing active feature development. They're really just pulling together everything that's going to go into that November 12 release. And then we start testing it. We start progressing it through various lower environments to make sure that we really have that stability in place, that we're running it against, all possible scenarios, because we've really heard that stability is incredibly important, to our users, and we want to focus on that. And then I think, again, we'll be doing the exact same thing. You can imagine this is a pretty brisk trot that the team is working on. So once we've done that and we've done our November release, then we're going to focus again. We're going to freeze code on November 18 and then start sprinting towards that December 12 release, where we're going to have payments and kind of our fully realized commercial product for the first time.
Exactly. Now, you did address the code freeze question. I just want to spell out that we're doing something here that we never did before, in the sense that you probably noticed, guys, and there's even right now in the chat, there's some unhappiness about this. We were pretty vague about deadlines and like timelines of things, which is, I think, pretty common for startups. It's very difficult to commit to. Sorry, I got a call in the meantime. I need to. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm here. Someone was calling me at the worst possible time. So timelines, communicating timelines is always a tricky thing, because then you commit publicly to something that you should be doing, and as a startup, you often don't have the means to actually see in advance how long certain things will take. There are a bunch of unexpected things that can happen. So this is the first. The reason why I put together this call is to actually be very exact and transparent about the timelines, our internal timelines. This is actually a slide from Rita's presentation in Malta. This is like nothing has been removed. This is what we're working with internally as well. So all of this stuff you will see reflected in our on our GitHub, of course. So if you look at our code base and the things that are happening there, you will see the work leading up to the code freeze, and then you will see, of course, our Web Summit launch. Here, I'll shut up. I'm going to pass the mic back to you, Rita. I just wanted to spell out that this is something new that we're doing specifically to address the sort of like vague timelines that we've been providing. We're hearing you guys, and we're making changes as a result. Go ahead, Rita. Sorry.
No, not at all. Absolutely. And when we go to questions, I am. I didn't mute. Can you not hear me?
I can't hear you.
Oh.
Can
No,
anyone
we
else?
can hear you,
Is
Rita.
anyone else having
Oh,
that
you can?
issue?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think maybe other folks can hear me, but if you can't
I
hear
can't
me,
hear
let
Marc either. Maybe the issue's on my end then.
cool.
Okay.
Well, just want to
Go ahead.
say
I'm going to fix my issue in a second. Sorry, guys.
cool. So just wanted to say to everyone that when we do turn to questions, I don't want to bore everyone with a lot of, Agile development processes, but if there's any Agile geeks out there or folks who just want to really get even more into the weeds about delivery, I'm always excited to talk about it. It's one of my favorite topics. And I will also just say that, before we lost Sudo a little bit, he had asked me to talk a little bit about what I experienced in Malta, because that was my first on-site with NIM. And I have to say, I was so delighted to be there. What I saw was just a team that is moving from a focus on research and development to delivering a stable product that people can rely on to ensure their privacy. And these folks are dedicated professionals from very diverse backgrounds who are all pulling towards the same goal. There was a lot of urgency. Oops, now I have an echo. There's a lot of urgency, a lot of excitement, a lot of focus. And the other thing that I saw at Malta that was really very personally moving to me was the community members who are supporting and contributing to the network. I got to see some presentations from some of those folks, and I also got to meet some of them in person. And it was great to see them treated as colleagues and honored guests. It really brought home to me how special it is, the mission of NIM, and I feel really honored to be, on the team. So just wanted to share that feel-good moment. And again, here for more questions if anyone has any.
Anything about me while I was not being able to listen, Rita? Only nice things.
What was it? Were any of the nice things about you? I mean, honestly, I didn't specifically say that, but now that you can hear me again, I have to say that Sudo and his team are doing incredible work. And I did mention the community presentation and how moving I found that. And I love that we talk back and forth with our community, and that, folks in the community are real contributors, real colleagues, and you're so important. And I'm, again, really, really honored to be a part of the team.
Thanks for that, Rita. What's going to happen from here before before we move on to the Q&A section, I want to tell you guys what's going to happen going forward. So you saw the dates, right? In about a week, a bit more than a week, we're going to have the first code freeze. We're going to be sharing publicly on our channels once the code freeze happens, and also leading up to it, the progress we're making on an ongoing basis. So now you know the dates, now you know the timeline. You hopefully have no questions about the release at this point, and hopefully you have no concerns either, because we have a plan and it is very much in motion. Big thanks for explaining it in such detail, Rita. I think we can move on actually to the community questions. We have quite a few, so we'll likely not have time to answer all of them. If your question is not answered, like Harry said, he's spending a lot of time on the NIM community general matrix chat. So there's a NIM community server, a matrix. Hopefully we can get a link to it in the live chat. And there's a general channel there. If you want to ask your question and it was not answered, then make sure to tag Harry there. All right, so first up, this one is specifically to you, Harry. Are you ready? You're muted.
I think someone else has muted me. Anyways, like I said, the questions I've already answered. I'd like not to answer twice. You can just read that. But if there's new questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Okay, this one on screen you already answered. Let me read it out for you. So Harry, this is a trick question for you. Don't answer if you don't want, but but in your perfect world, how much in dollar terms should a node operator get with 50% saturation?
Yeah, I think it should probably get at least enough to cover costs. Ideally, make a tidy profit. So I don't know what So like I run, for example, Linux boxes. That costs me, I run pretty high-end stuff. That costs me like $260 a month, including bandwidth costs. So it'd be awesome if people could make like at least, I would say, double that, at least $500 or so. That would definitely get me, if I made double the money I put into hardware, that would encourage me to keep running it. Ideally, you make even more, but I think you want people to make about, I would say, about double what they put in, because I think that's a pretty high, a pretty good business, to be honest. It's a good, I mean, it's much better than most VPNs. The margins are actually quite small, and volunteer networks like Tor, the margin, you don't make anything, right? So that'd just be my guess off the top of my head. It really also depends on where you are, right? In some countries, like South America, server costs are quite high. In other countries, you put stuff on Amazon, it's going to be quite low, or Hertzner or whatever. However, it's very easy to block big data centers like Hertzner and Amazon. So if you're running nodes on your custom, bare metal machine, and you know where that machine is, and that machine has a high connection, I would say, machines, it's maybe a location where people need it. I would hope that person makes more than double what they invested in, because it's going to be a big investment to get that kind of bare metal node off the ground. Okay.
Yep. Thanks for that answer, Harry. And sorry for the echo, guys. I had to switch from my earphones to my speaker. That is why you're getting some echo. I'll mute myself as soon as I stop speaking. Next question is from Alex, which is, will the decentralized IP gateways get a share of the rewards? I guess more broadly, they are asking how the residential IP service will get rewarded if someone wants to.
Yeah, I mean, we already have the plan to give gateways the rewards. So if I set up a gateway, I'm going to get rewarded. This is the next big smart contract update. I'm going to start getting some of that inflation. And that's great, because right now the inflation is mostly on the mixed nodes, and most of the gateways that people probably know are on various kinds of grants or whatever. And you want the gateways to get both some inflation and to get rewarded proportional to the amount of users that use them. So that smart contract update is already planned. I think folks are writing the docs for it. I'm not sure if it'll come out right before or after the November launch date, but it should come out around then. And that will at least let the gateways be much more economically sustainable. Now, there's two kinds of gateways, though. Right now, we're mostly talking about gateways which are ran on large machines, on a server, not on my laptop, not on my desktop computer. When people are turning on desktop computers and laptops and stuff, and making them gateways, that will dramatically increase the number of gateways. But those gateways will be of less quality. It's going to be, often if you have a normal internet connection, the upload is capped pretty heavily compared to the download, for example. So what's going to happen is that those gateways, because they'll have various kind of capped internet, they'll make probably some rewards, but they'll just carry less traffic than the gateways which are on large servers. But they might carry more kinds of specialized traffic, particularly in countries which are facing censorship. So I think that those residential gateways that I might run in my house, not in a server farm or not on someone else's server farm via VPS, they're going to make less money. But I think the reason why people turn them on will be different. I think people will turn on these kinds of gateways because they'll be paying for an NymVPN, and they'll say, oh, well, why can't I make some money while I just have my NymVPN connection on anyways? Why not? So they're not going to be expecting to get tons of money like the big gateway operators or the mixed node operators. They'll be expecting to get enough just to kind of maybe cover the cost of their own VPN subscription, which would be cool. If someone came up to me and they were like, here's one VPN where you have to pay once every month, and here's a VPN where you just leave your computer on and you can make some money, just as people could leave their computers on with Bitcoin and make some money with hashing and GPU and hash mining in the early days, like 2011 or so. I think people would choose the VPN that lets people make a little bit of money back. And I think that could rapidly increase our gateway count. But each of those nodes would probably make not so much money because, again, they'll have probably very weak and limited bandwidth. Does that make sense?
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. Thanks for the answer, Harry. I think a lot of the questions are very Harry focused. So sorry, Mark and Rita. I will point to you when there's something that you guys should answer. Thanks for the question, Alex. Next one is from Rocio, our beloved community contributor. She's asking, some Tor nodes were investigated. Could
Oh
this
yeah,
happen
I
with
was just
gateway?
answering this in chat, but but yeah, the short version is yeah, you can repeat the question. Sorry, I was just halfway done answering that, but go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah. So some Tor nodes were investigated. Could this happen with gateways and their operators? How should we be prepared for this?
I mean, every country is different, right? So if in Germany, there's a lot of gateway Tor, you should not probably run a Tor exit in Germany, to be honest. There's a lot of investigation of Tor exits in Germany, and eventually the German, authorities might start investigating NIM exit gateways, and that's to be expected, right? Because even if you just BitTorrent in Germany, you'll get a letter in the mail. The police are very good at IP detection, and they'll send it to your house. I mean, I've had friends where they've downloaded using BitTorrent a movie, and they get a $500 fine. That being said, most countries don't do that. Most countries don't have that level of sophistication, at least currently, in tracking. So I do think it's going to be a little bit, there's always that risk with running exit gateways. Now, that being said, we have lawyers, and we've been working with lots of lawyers for many years. We have legal memos outlining those risks. We'll make those public bit by bit, but effectively in most countries, except definitely not Iran and China and Russia, it's where you need various levels of government permission. It's totally legal to run a VPN. And because it's legal to run a VPN, when they investigate you, they're just confused. They think, oh, you're downloading this movie. They don't realize that someone's using a VPN through your computer, a Tor through your computer to download that movie. When people understand that, and we're happy to help educate and prepare there, they do. And they walk back and say, oh, well, it's not really, this person downloading the movie. It's their machine, another person somewhere else. And again, people say, why don't we just offer one hop DVPN? The main reason is not because we can't do it. Technically, it'd be trivial. It'd be faster than our current NymVPN, but because we're not offering that because there's more legal risk. Because if you are both the entry and the exit in a DVPN, you are able to identify the user. And if you're not, you're not. So if you're running even with 2-hop DVPN mode, you cannot identify personally the end user. And we think that's, as long as you're in different countries, that should really limit the ability of authorities to go after you. If authorities do go after you, let's say they're stupid, they don't really understand how NIM works, they're pushing very hard. We work with other industry companies, have lots of lawyers, particularly Universal Privacy Alliance, or we haven't committed yet because we're still trying to figure out how often this will happen, but we will help with legal services and legal fees to defend node operators, just as Tor does and other people do, and help with educational material. Now, on the mixnet side, this is much harder because, again, we're just talking about the WireGuard mode, which is similar to Tor on some level, or a traditional VPN. The mixnet does something more or less completely different. The mixnet routes each packet differently through a different route. So the chances that you'll have problems running a mixnet exit are pretty limited because it's just much more difficult. The packets are just routed through too many different routes. It's possible that you'll have problems, but I think it's highly unlikely. Although we'll find out. I mean, in order to compromise, the way I think about it is, in order to understand where traffic is coming from, the DVPN mode, you have to compromise the entry and the exit. But because I was downloading a movie, let's say, over the 5-hop mode, I'd have to compromise 5 nodes to figure out what's going on, and that's just for one packet. Most movies are hundreds of packets. I'd have to compromise virtually the entire network to identify who is downloading the movie, and we think that's more or less impossible. I think it's like 80% of the network has to be compromised to make that even likely to be able to capture traffic. So weirdly enough, probably running a mixed node exit might be a bit safer, counterintuitively, if you're very worried about these things, running a DVPN exit. But ideally, you can run both. I mean,
Thanks for the answer, Harry. Next question, and this is going to be the last one that we have time for. And I wanna share my own thoughts. Harry, let me know what you think. This is from Sercon. This is from Sercon. Thanks for the question, Sercon. Please leave your other questions in the Matrix chat. We didn't have time to address all of them, but I think Harry will be happy to answer you there. So why were the minimum earnings for node runners, meaning the minimum profit margin, increased from 5% to 10%? Won't this cause more chaos in the token price? Well, I can answer the why part. So this was something that that I initiated. Actually, the community initiated. So Wunderbar, if you're watching, Wunderbar raised the importance of stopping race to the bottom dynamics from happening. So if you don't have any minimum profit margin, then people will just set their PM lower and lower to attract delegators, and this will result in them not making profits, which will result in the network suffering overall because people will not be able to pay for good machines running like a high quality network, right? And then as we're looking at the profitability of our node operators, right? We saw that there could be some work there. This is something we did not talk about this today because this was a call about NymVPN, of course, but it's very important to us that our node operator community is happy, obviously. Staking, right? It's a passive activity. You just put a bunch of tokens on a mixed node while running a node, just like Harry mentioned just now. Involves risk, right? And it involves a whole host of activities, just updating, keeping a close eye, especially nowadays, things are picking up pace, and it's quite an involved process to operate it in node, right? So we wanted to make sure that it's not actually us making this decision, right? So remember, this was a series of votes that happened. The community, both of the operator community and the NIM Squad League, as the stewards of the Squad Wealth Fund, which is our main source of funding, voted on this, and we made sure to explain the implications of this change as well. So my understanding and why I'm happy to see a 20% minimum profit margin is that we wanted to shift together with the community the ratio of rewards to stakers, delegators who are making, just like a few button clicks and leave their tokens for years and don't even remember them on a given mixed node, versus our node operators who are very involved, do a lot of great work, and actually make this network a reality. So shift the balance between the rewards of these two. So our thinking with putting this up for vote and letting you guys decide was that. Obviously, I need to mention that this is not a final decision. We could have another governance vote on this if necessary, but this is what the community thought was the best path of action. Anything to add there, Harry? What do you think about the impact of the 20% minimum margin on token price?
I mean, it's why not? I think you do. What we've seen is, when a network first launches, because of how cryptocurrency works, you get a lot of people that are just there with barely functioning nodes. They refuse to upgrade. They don't really pay attention to what's going on. They're just trying to harvest rewards, and they immediately dump the rewards, which then hurts the price for everyone. And we were seeing a lot of that. We do know more or less who's doing that, and it's larger than we expected, unfortunately. And part of it, when NymVPN turns on, we'll have real users. That means those nodes will be carrying real traffic. So putting the profit margin 20% is just part of a larger strategy to remove the focus on delegation and remove the focus on staking and move to nodes getting rewarded for performance. And for performance, particularly in geolocations where there's lots of demand. So it's like we don't want to get rid of staking completely. Staking has some utility in Sybil resistance. It offers a very nice social network of who's talking to who. It has some utility, but that utility is going to start going down. And performance is going to go up. So I think the 20% reward ratio is just the beginning of an effort over the next few months, probably over the next 6 months, to basically get rid of all nodes which are non-functioning and just basically farming NIM tokens, which is hurting everyone. We want the NIM token to be a healthy token. We want to represent real reputation, not just, a bunch of people stake to me because my profit margin's low. I think that's kind of bullshit, and we want to get away from that paradigm. Is there maybe we have time for one more quick question because we started a little bit late. Is there anything quick out there we can do?
I think we don't have any quick questions, unfortunately. So what I would like to do instead is actually, it's been a pretty boring Q&A for Rita and Marc. So I want to open this up for closing remarks if you guys want to say anything before we move on to closing the call.
All good on my side. Yeah, really exciting to see this taking shape, and thanks a lot to community members for their active support and their patience.
Yeah, I'd like to second that, and just want to say that your participation is so important. And so we all are always looking at your feedback, and we're really excited to get your reaction to what we're releasing, this year. And so really looking forward to that.
Definitely keep an eye on our channels for the updates about the upcoming code freezes, how we're progressing towards the goals there, and of course also the 2 launch events which you saw already on the slide. And with all of that said, there's nothing else left to do, which is to give you guys your POAPs, right? So as a tradition in the NIM community, when you hang out with us and attend these events, you get a POAP to commemorate your participation. We gave a fitting secret phrase for today's POAP. So first, Salazar, can you please drop? Thank you very much. So here's the link. You know what to do. You need to go to nimtech.net/go/POAP to claim your POAP. And the secret phrase is, drum roll, T- with the same spelling. So T, the capital T, and dash, and then minus with all not capital letters. Of course, this is, T minus 2 months to go, basically, by and large. So continue to keep an eye on our progress. See you on our channels. And big thanks for our guests also for coming on, and an even bigger thanks for all of our community members who listened in. Bye, everyone.